I want you to picture a scene with me for a second. Let's just set the stage.
Okay, let's do it.
So you have just spent, I don't know, maybe the last hour getting dressed up in your absolute best clothes.
Right. You're looking good.
You are. And you're standing on the sidewalk of this busy city street. And right in front of you are these massive, heavy glass doors.
The intimidating doors.
Oh, so intimidating. So you take a deep breath, you push those doors open, and you step inside this ridiculously expensive, dimly lit restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of place where the waiters are wearing suits that probably cost more than your entire outfit.
Oh, absolutely they do.
Right. And you walk in, and the air smells like roasted garlic and really expensive perfume.
Yeah.
And the lighting it's carefully designed to make everything look like a movie set.
It really is.
And suddenly, right in that moment, this very specific kind of panic just sets in.
Oh, I know that panic. It is a freezing, just completely paralyzing kind of panic. And honestly, it is completely understandable. I mean, the environment is literally designed to be intimidating.
It is, because almost immediately, someone hands you a menu. And you look at it, and it looks like it is written in a completely foreign language.
There are probably a lot of French words on it.
So many French words. And there are $0 signs anywhere to be seen.
That's always a bad sign for your wallet.
It really is. And then, a waiter is standing next to your table looking very expectant, just holding a small notepad. And in that precise second, you realize you have forgotten everything you know about speaking English.
Your mind just goes totally blank.
Completely blank. Every single vocabulary word you have ever studied just vanishes.
The irony is that dining out is fundamentally supposed to be this joyful human experience. It's supposed to be a celebration of food and being with people. But when you are actively learning a language, or even if you are just unfamiliar with the very specific culture of high-end American dining, that joy gets completely overshadowed.
By the anxiety.
Exactly, by performance anxiety. You literally stop tasting the food because you are just too worried about saying the wrong thing.
Which is exactly why we are dedicating our entire deep dive today to this very specific feeling.
It's such an important topic.
It really is. So if you are listening to this and you have ever felt that cold sweat in a nice restaurant, I just want to say you are absolutely not alone.
Not at all.
Our source material for today's discussion is this really highly insightful, very practical guide. And it's designed specifically to help English learners master the art of communication in fine dining settings.
And honestly, it's a guide that anyone who feels intimidated by fancy restaurants really needs to read. Native speakers, too.
Oh, 100%. So our mission today with this material is to extract the essential linguistic tools. The source actually refers to these as pocket words.
Pocket words, I love that term.
Me too. So what exactly does that mean in this context?
So pocket words are basically these small, easily remembered phrases that you can keep in your pocket, metaphorically speaking, and just pull them out when you feel stuck.
Like an emergency backup.
Exactly. But beyond just giving you a list of vocabulary words, we are going to actually decode the completely unspoken rules of upscale American restaurants.
Because there are so many unspoken rules.
So many.
And the ultimate goal here is to transform that dining anxiety into total elegance and just, confidence. We want you to walk into any room, no matter how expensive the carpet is, and feel like you belong there.
You absolutely belong there.
But to truly master this environment, I think we have to start at the very beginning of the timeline. Like, we have to look at the moments before you even sit down at your table.
Right. Before you even see a single plate of food, we begin at the threshold.
The threshold. So the entry point of the restaurant.
Yes.
You walk through those heavy glass doors, and the very first person you interact with is usually standing behind this tall wooden podium near the entrance.
Right, the host. Or in some really traditional places, they might call them the maitre d'.
The maitre d'. And the standard question they will ask you almost immediately after saying hello is just very simply, do you have a reservation?
Right. And in a perfect world, you simply give your name. You might say, yes, a table for two under the name Smith.
Simple enough.
And then they lead you directly to your seat. But the source material highlights this exact moment because this is where the very first major psychological hurdle often happens for diners.
The unexpected detour.
Yes, the detour.
Let's talk about this because this happens to me all the time.
Right.
Let's say you are perfectly on time. Or maybe you're even like 5 minutes early because you are a very punctual person.
You're doing everything right.
You're doing everything right. You give your name to the host, and instead of picking up 2 menus and walking you into the dining room, the host just looks at you and says, Your table is still being prepared. Would you like to wait at the bar?
And for a diner who is already feeling kind of nervous about their English or the environment, that statement feels like an immediate rejection.
It totally does. I know that feeling so intimately. You just immediately start wondering what you did wrong.
Right, you internalize it.
You think, like, did I lose my table? Are they too busy for us? Did I mispronounce my own name when I told them the reservation? And your anxiety just spikes before the meal even begins.
That emotional reaction is so common, but it completely misreads the actual situation.
Okay, so what is actually happening?
Well, if we look closely at the mechanics and the really complex operations of fine dining, we see that being asked to wait at the bar is not a rejection at all.
It's not.
Not at all. It is a completely normal structural part of the restaurant's pacing.
Pacing. Let's focus on that word for a second. How exactly does a restaurant control its pace? And why does that involve me just standing awkwardly at the bar?
Think of a high-end kitchen, not just as a room full of cooks, but as a highly complex traffic grid.
A traffic grid? Okay.
Right. The kitchen has different stations. You have the grill, the sauté pans, the cold salads.
Yeah.
Now, if the host seats every single guest at the exact same moment, let's say 4 different tables, all sit down at exactly 7:00 p.m., it is basically like a rush hour traffic jam hitting a single intersection.
Because everyone is going to order at the exact same time.
Exactly. The waiters will put all those orders in at once, and suddenly the kitchen has to cook 20 meals simultaneously.
And the system just breaks down.
It completely breaks down. The food takes way too long. The quality drops. The service gets really chaotic.
So the host at the podium is essentially like a traffic controller.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
They are just holding people back to make sure the kitchen doesn't crash.
Precisely. They use the bar area as a holding zone to stagger the orders. They might wait, 5 or 10 minutes between seating each table.
Just to give the kitchen breathing room.
Right. It gives the kitchen time to process the first table's orders before the second table's tickets come in. So when the host asks you to wait at the bar, they are literally managing the flow of the entire evening to ensure that when you finally do sit down, your service is absolutely flawless.
Wow, knowing that completely changes the feeling of the moment. Like, they aren't ignoring you because you aren't important. They are setting up the whole system so that you get the best possible meal.
That is exactly the perspective shift the source encourages. Therefore, your verbal response in this moment should not be panic.
Right, don't freak out.
You do not need to argue with the host. You definitely do not need to ask aggressively how long the wait will be.
So what is the pocket phrase here? What do we say?
The most elegant, composed response you can give is a very simple, "Sure, thank you."
Sure, thank you. That is so incredibly simple. I mean, it requires almost no complex grammar.
It requires zero complex grammar, but it communicates massive confidence. You simply agree, you walk over to the bar, and you relax. By doing this, you instantly signal to the restaurant staff that you are an experienced diner.
Like, I know how this works.
Exactly. You understand their systems. You have basically passed the first unspoken test of the evening.
I love that. Okay, so you wait a few minutes, you sip some water at the bar, and eventually the host comes to find you.
Your table is ready.
Your table is ready. They walk you to your table. You sit down in a very comfortable chair. You take your heavy cloth napkin and place it on your lap, which is a crucial step in fine dining, by the way.
Very crucial.
And the waiter approaches your table for the very first time. Now, this brings us to a moment that I personally think is the most common trap of the entire night. I refer to it as the water trap.
The water trap. It's a brilliant term for it, honestly, because it is absolutely designed to catch people off guard before they have even settled into their chairs.
Yeah, you are just trying to get comfortable. You're maybe looking around at the beautiful room, and the waiter leans in very seriously and asks, "Would you care for still or sparkling water?"
And it always feels so abrupt.
It feels exactly like a pop quiz in school that I absolutely forgot to study for.
The timing is very intentional. You are suddenly forced to make a definitive choice before you have even been given the chance to open the menu.
And it is so incredibly easy to freeze in this moment. I have to confess, years ago, when I was first starting to eat at nicer places, a waiter asked me this exact question.
What did you do?
My brain completely stopped working. I just stared at him and said, just the wet kind, please.
Oh no, the wet kind. That is a very human reaction, but perhaps not the elegant image we are trying to project here.
Not at all. The waiter looked at me like I was a literal alien.
I can imagine.
So, for the benefit of anyone listening who might be confused, let's clearly define these two options before we get to the real secret. What exactly are still and sparkling?
Okay, so when the waiter asks if you want still water, they are referring to regular flat water.
Just normal water.
Right. This is water with absolutely no carbonation, no bubbles.
Okay, and sparkling?
When they ask if you want sparkling water, they are referring to carbonated water. This is water with bubbles injected into it, similar to the texture of a soda.
Like a Perrier?
Exactly, like Perrier or San Pellegrino.
Okay, so still means flat. Sparkling means bubbles. That part is straightforward. But here is the critical hack we pulled from the guide today.
This is the important part.
The trap is that the waiter only gives you two choices. But in reality, there is a secret third option that they're kind of hoping you do not know about.
The unlisted option is where the real strategy lies.
Because think about it, if you just quickly answer still because you want the waiter to leave you alone so you can read the menu.
Which a lot of people do.
Right. They're going to walk away and come back with a beautiful, heavy glass bottle of something like Fiji water or Evian. They will pour it for you very elegantly.
It looks very nice.
It does. But later, at the end of the night, when you receive the final check, you will discover that that single bottle of water just cost you $10, $12, or maybe even $15.
Which can be quite a shock, especially if you are traveling from a country or a culture where water is always served freely and automatically at the start of a meal.
$15 for water is wild.
It is. And to understand why this happens, we have to look at the economics of the restaurant industry and the specific social pressure of those opening moments of a dinner.
Yeah, I want to hear about the economics here. Why is water the very first thing they try to sell you?
Well, high-end restaurants actually operate on very tight profit margins when it comes to the actual food.
Really? Even with those prices?
Yes, because the ingredients are very expensive and the labor of the chefs is highly skilled and costly. The real profit for a restaurant comes from beverages.
Ah, the drinks.
Wine, cocktails, and yes, premium bottled water. By asking you this question the very moment you sit down, they are introducing a really easy, high-margin upsell.
And they are completely relying on the fact that I feel a little nervous and intimidated, right?
Absolutely. The social pressure is the key mechanism here. Think about it. You have just sat down. You are trying to look sophisticated.
Yeah, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly. You do not want your very first interaction with your waiter to make you look cheap or difficult. The waiter knows that the easiest path for a nervous diner is to just agree to one of the options presented.
Just say still and make it go away.
Right.
But the guide tells us that asking for the free option does not actually make you look cheap at all.
That is the most important lesson of the water trap. Many English learners feel embarrassed to ask for free water in such a luxurious space.
It feels wrong to ask for something free when everything else is so expensive.
But asking for the free option actually makes you look like a savvy, experienced diner. It shows you are not intimidated by the environment and you actually know how the system works.
Okay, we need the exact phrase for this. What is the pocket phrase we should memorize to escape this trap gracefully?
The ideal phrase to memorize is, "We will actually just take regular tap water with ice, please."
We will actually just take regular tap water with ice, please.
Or you can use a slightly shorter version. Tap water is fine, thank you.
Let's look at the specific words in that first one. Why include words like actually and just?
Those modifier words are very important for the tone of the sentence. By saying actually, you are politely acknowledging that you are rejecting their too expensive options.
It's like a polite redirection.
Yes. And by saying just, you are downplaying the request, making it sound simple and easy for the waiter.
And for anyone who doesn't know, what exactly is tap water?
Tap water is simply the water that comes directly from the restaurant's own filtered system.
Is it safe?
Very safe. In the United States, municipal tap water is heavily regulated, it's perfectly safe, it's clean, and in fine dining restaurants, they almost always run it through a really high-quality filter anyway.
So it's perfectly safe, it tastes totally fine, and most importantly, it is completely free.
Exactly. Saying tap water is fine, thank you, instantly relieves the financial pressure of the moment.
And it signals to the waiter, like, I understand how this works, I'm comfortable here, let's move on to the actual food.
You are establishing a quiet authority. You are taking control of your dining experience right from the very first sentence.
I love that, taking control. So the water crisis is completely averted. You are sipping your ice-cold, completely free tap water.
You're feeling good.
You are feeling very proud of yourself for navigating the trap. But the relief doesn't last long because now the waiter hands over the actual menu.
And this is a whole new challenge.
It really is, because menus in fine dining restaurants are incredibly confusing.
The physical format and the specific vocabulary of a fine dining menu can be disorienting, even for native English speakers who are just used to casual dining.
See, I always playfully complain about this when I go in to eat, because casual restaurants have menus with, pictures and really clear sections and big numbers for the prices.
They're designed to be easy.
Right. So why can't fancy restaurants just use simple descriptive categories? Why can't the top of the page just say small stuff and the bottom of the page say big stuff? It would make life so much easier for everyone.
While small stuff and big stuff would certainly be efficient, the culture of fine dining is built entirely on tradition and a desire to elevate the experience above the ordinary.
They want it to feel special.
Exactly. To justify the high prices, the restaurant must use an elevated vocabulary. Therefore, instead of small stuff, the top section of the menu will almost always be labeled as appetizers or starters.
Appetizers and starters.
Okay.
These are the smaller dishes meant to be eaten at the very beginning of the meal, basically to stimulate your appetite.
Right. A bowl of soup, a small green salad, maybe a plate of raw oysters.
Okay, I can grasp that concept. Starters start the meal. But further down the menu is where we hit a massive, massive obstacle.
The biggest trap on the menu.
Yes, I need you to explain this clearly, because the guide points this out as the single biggest linguistic trap for international visitors. I'm talking about the word entree. What in the world is happening with this word in America?
The word entree is such a fascinating case study in how language evolves and basically breaks its own rules over time.
It makes no sense to me.
If you are a visitor coming from Europe, or if you have ever studied the French language, the word entree on an American menu is a massive false friend.
Okay, let's define that term really quickly for our listeners. A false friend in language learning is a word that looks and sounds exactly like a word you already know in your native language.
But it actually means something completely different in the new language.
Right. It tricks you.
It betrays your expectations completely. In Europe and in the original French language, the word entree literally translates to the entrance.
The entrance.
In a culinary context, it means the entry point of the meal. It is the very first course. It is the appetizer.
See, that makes perfect logical sense.
Yeah.
It's the entrance to the dinner. So it's the first thing you eat.
Yes. However, in American English, the meaning of the word has completely and totally shifted over the last century.
How so?
In the United States, the entree has evolved to mean the main course. It is the largest, heaviest, and most expensive dish on the table.
So it's the large steak or the heavy bowl of pasta?
Exactly. The whole roasted chicken. That is the entree in America.
I just find this absolutely baffling. Why would Americans take a word that literally translates to entrance and start using it to describe the main event of the meal?
To understand this, we have to look back at the history of high society in America, specifically during the Gilded Age. So we're talking the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
Okay, history lesson.
During this time, newly wealthy Americans really wanted to prove how sophisticated they were. And the ultimate symbol of sophistication back then was French haute cuisine.
So all the fancy new restaurants in places like New York and Chicago just started copying the French style.
Yes, completely. They adopted these traditional French menus, which at the time featured enormous multi-course feasts.
How many courses are we talking?
A traditional French formal dinner menu. And in that massive sequence, the entree was a specific lighter dish served right before the really heavy meat roast. It was basically the entrance to the heavy part of the meal.
Oh, okay, so it was actually in the middle of a very long progression.
Exactly. But over the decades, the pace of modern life sped up. American eating habits changed. Diners just no longer had the time, or honestly, the stomach capacity, for 15-course meals.
Nobody has time for that today.
Right. So the menus began to shrink. The small intermediate courses disappeared. The massive meat roasts disappeared.
What was left?
What was left was a much more simplified 3-course meal, a starter, a main plate, and a dessert. But the restaurants still wanted to sound fancy in French.
Of course.
So the word entree simply slid down the menu and attached itself to the main plate of food, completely ignoring its original translation.
It just got stuck there.
Yeah.
And no one ever bothered to correct it.
Exactly.
So the practical advice here for an English language learner or just any visitor to the U.S. is so critical. When you look at an American menu and you see the heading entrees, you must actively remind yourself, this is not the small salad.
This is the large steak.
Because if you sit down and order 3 entrees, thinking you are getting small tapas-style bites to share with your friends, what is going to happen?
You are going to be presented with a terrifying, massive amount of food and a very, very expensive bill at the end of the night.
That would be a disaster. Okay, so we have decoded the basic categories. Starters are small, entrees are big. But the guide also discusses the overall structure of how you order. It mentions the difference between ordering a la carte and ordering a tasting menu.
Right. 2 very different approaches.
Let's break those down, starting with a la carte.
Okay, so a la carte is another French phrase that has basically been absorbed into English. It essentially translates to by the card, meaning by the menu.
Right.
This is the traditional way most people order food. You look at the list, you choose one specific appetizer for yourself, you choose one specific entree, and you pay the individual price listed next to those specific items.
You are basically constructing your own meal.
You are the architect of your own dinner. You build it yourself.
But the source spends quite a bit of time on the alternative, which is the tasting menu. Now, this concept sounds incredible, but also deeply intimidating.
A tasting menu, which, by the way, you will also sometimes see listed as a prix-fixe menu, which just means fixed price, is a radically different dining philosophy.
How does it work?
In this scenario, you do not choose your individual dishes at all.
You don't choose anything.
Nothing. Instead, you agree to pay one single set price for the evening, and the chef dictates the entire journey.
You literally just sit there and they bring you food.
Yes. They might bring you 7, 8, or even 12 tiny, meticulously crafted plates of food over the course of 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
It is designed to be a comprehensive showcase of the kitchen's absolute best skills and whatever the freshest seasonal ingredients are that day.
I mean, eating 12 different plates of food sounds like a true culinary adventure.
It is an adventure, but the guide correctly points out that it carries a significant psychological burden if you are not prepared for it.
What kind of burden?
Well, ordering a tasting menu requires you to completely surrender control. You are inevitably going to be served ingredients you have never heard of, or maybe textures you might not typically enjoy.
Which is fantastic if you're feeling really adventurous and you want to explore. But let's bring it back to a more common scenario for our learners.
Okay.
Let's say you are ordering a la carte. You are looking at the list of entrees, and you are simply paralyzed by choice.
Decision paralysis. It happens all the time.
The menu is just a wall of text. You don't recognize half the cooking terms. You don't know if you want the fish or the duck. Our source provides a really vital pocket phrase for these exact moments of indecision.
This is honestly one of the most useful phrases in the entire guide. When you are lost on the menu, you simply look at your server and you ask, what is the chef's recommendation tonight?
What is the chef's recommendation tonight? I just love how professional that sounds.
It sounds great.
But beyond just sounding good, why is this specific question such an effective strategy?
It is effective on multiple levels. First of all, it solves your immediate problem. It entirely removes the burden of choice from your shoulders. You no longer have to decipher the menu. Second, it initiates a natural, positive conversation with your server. It gives them the floor.
Right.
Waiters at high-end restaurants are highly trained professionals who taste the food regularly. By asking for their input, you give them a chance to shine and share their expertise with you.
You are acknowledging their professionalism. You're treating them like an expert.
Yes. And third, you are implicitly honoring the chef. By asking for their recommendation, you are sending a message to the kitchen that basically says, I trust your craft more than my own ability to choose.
That's a huge compliment to the kitchen. And from a purely practical standpoint, does asking this actually get you better food?
Almost always.
Really?
Yes, because the chef's recommendation is rarely a random choice. It is usually a dish built around an ingredient that just arrived at the restaurant that very morning.
Oh, like fresh catch.
Exactly. Perhaps a local fisherman brought in a beautiful sea bass, or a local farm just delivered perfect summer tomatoes. The recommendation guarantees you are getting the freshest, most vibrant dish in the building, rather than something that has been on the standard menu for 6 months.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
What is the chef's recommendation? It sounds sophisticated, it flatters the staff, and it gets you the absolute best meal.
It's a win-win.
It really is. But let's transition slightly. Let's imagine you do know exactly what you want. You have read the menu, you have made your choices, and the waiter approaches the table, pulling out their little notepad.
The moment of truth.
This is the moment where we discover that in English, how you say something matters just as much, if not more, than what you say.
We are entering the territory of the psychology of politeness.
Yes.
This is a fundamental pillar of American dining culture, and it is honestly where direct translations from other languages often completely fail.
Now, I am going to push back on this entire concept a little bit because I think a lot of people struggle with this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's look at mistake number 1 from the source material. The mistake is sounding like what the guide calls a demanding toddler.
The demanding toddler syndrome. It happens very frequently with language learners.
Well, here's my pushback. Let's say the waiter asks what I want. A very common logical response is to simply say, I want the steak, or I want the roasted chicken. Now, look at that sentence. I want the steak. Subject, verb, object. Grammatically, it is flawless.
It is grammatically correct, yes.
Furthermore, this is a business transaction. I am paying, $100 for this meal. I am the customer. Why is it considered a mistake to clearly and efficiently state what I want to purchase? Why do I have to play a polite linguistic game here?
Your pushback highlights the exact cultural friction that language learners experience. You are entirely correct that grammatically I want is a perfect sentence.
Right.
You are also correct that this is a financial transaction. However, language does not exist in a vacuum, right? It exists within a very specific cultural framework. And socially, in an American context, saying I want is incredibly jarring.
Why is it jarring?
Because of the tone it conveys. I want is a direct, unvarnished statement of desire. When you use it in a restaurant, it frames the interaction as an aggressive command.
Just because I didn't use a softener.
Exactly. As the source notes, it sounds like a toddler demanding a toy in a store. I want the toy, I want milk. Or, to use a slightly more extreme example, it sounds like a bank robber making a threat.
Like, I want the money in the bag.
Oh, exactly. I want the money. There is absolutely no elegance or grace to that phrasing.
Okay, I can see how it sounds a bit harsh when you put it like that. So, if I want is the aggressive command, what is the native-sounding, elegant alternative we should be using?
The elegant alternative relies on conditional and future phrasing. Instead of the hard demand of I want, you use the slightly deferred, softer phrasing of I'll have the, or I would like to start with the.
Oh, I'll have...
Yes. For example, you say I'll have the steak, please. Or I'd like the roasted chicken.
I'll have the steak. It literally feels softer to say. The sounds are smoother.
It is much smoother.
But let's dig deeper into the sociology here, because I find this fascinating. Why does American culture specifically require this softening of language in a restaurant? Like, why are we so sensitive to this?
This is perhaps the most fascinating cultural insight in the guide. It stems from the unique history of the American service industry.
Okay, how so?
Well, unlike European countries, which have these long-established histories of aristocracy and formal servant classes, American culture is built on a foundational, even if sometimes mythical idea of democratic equality.
Oh, I see. We don't like the idea that anyone is inherently above anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The concept of a master ordering a servant around makes Americans culturally very uncomfortable.
Even if we are paying them.
Especially then. Therefore, even though you are the paying customer and you do hold the economic power in the interaction, American dining culture demands what sociologists actually call a polite fiction of equality.
A polite fiction of equality. We are basically pretending that we are all just equals hanging out together.
Precisely. By saying I'll have, or I would like, you are softening the sharp edge of that financial transaction. You are framing your order not as an absolute command to a subordinate, but as a polite preference shared with a collaborator.
You are treating the server as an equal who is just helping you curate a nice evening.
That is a brilliant way to understand it. You aren't just ordering food, you are navigating the American social class system through vocabulary.
That is so wild, but it makes so much sense.
And practically speaking, maintaining that polite fiction is the absolute best way to ensure you receive excellent service. Servers are human beings. They respond positively to respect and negatively to aggression.
Okay, but what if I need to change something? Let's talk about modifications.
Modifications can be tricky.
I will confess right now, I am terrible at ordering food exactly as it is written. I always want something changed.
You're one of those diners.
I am. But a lot of people feel like it is incredibly rude to ask for changes at a high-end restaurant. For example, let's say I am ordering a beautifully composed, expensive salad, but I absolutely despise raw tomatoes. Is it an insult to the chef if I ask them to remove the tomatoes?
It is a very common fear. Diners worry that asking for a change will make the waiter angry or somehow insult the kitchen's artistic vision. But the source material reassures us that modifications are completely acceptable.
Oh, good.
Provided, once again, that the linguistic tone is correct.
So the rule is the same? I shouldn't just look at the waiter and bark, "No tomatoes."
Exactly. Barking a negative command breaks that polite fiction of equality. The strategy for modifying a dish is to frame your request as a polite inquiry.
An inquiry.
Yes. You are asking if a favor is possible rather than demanding a change. You should use phrases like, is it possible to have...
Is it possible to have the salad without the tomatoes?
Yes. By asking, is it possible, you are acknowledging that the kitchen is busy and that you are asking for an exception to their normal process. It is a highly respectful way to ask for exactly what you want.
It gives them out, even though we know they're probably going to do it.
Exactly.
And the source provided another essential pocket phrase for modifications, specifically when it comes to things like heavy sauces or salad dressings. The phrase is, on the side.
On the side is a very powerful tool for controlling your meal.
How exactly do we use it in a sentence?
Let's say you are ordering a piece of fish, and the menu says it comes with a rich, heavy lemon butter sauce. You want the fish, but you are worried the sauce will be too greasy for you.
Right.
You simply ask the waiter, could I get the lemon butter sauce on the side, please?
What does that specifically tell the kitchen to do?
It tells the kitchen to cook the fish normally, but instead of pouring the sauce all over it before blowing it out, they will bring the sauce in a separate small dish or cup right next to your plate.
Oh, that's perfect.
This allows you to control exactly how much sauce you eat. You can dip your fork in it, you can pour a tiny bit, or you can ignore it completely.
Should I get the dressing on the side?
Yeah.
It is such a sophisticated move. It shows you know how to navigate the menu to suit your own personal taste.
It's very common, too.
And I assume the magic ingredient for all of these requests, whether it's I'll have or is it possible or on the side, is just remembering to smile and say please.
Never, ever underestimate the power of a genuine smile and a please. When you frame your request with basic human warmth, restaurant staff are almost always happy to accommodate you.
They just want you to be happy.
Their primary goal is for you to enjoy your experience in their building.
Okay, let's take a breath and just review where we are in the evening.
Sounds good.
The food is ordered beautifully. We used the polite, I'll have. We successfully navigated modification without insulting anyone. We are feeling very confident.
Everything is going great.
But suddenly, a new figure approaches the table.
Ah, yes.
They are dressed a little differently than your waiter. They are carrying a bottle, they have a specialized metal tool in their hand, and they initiate what I genuinely believe is the single most intimidating, mysterious, and unspoken ritual in all of fine dining.
The arrival of the sommelier, the wine presentation ritual.
Yes. The sommelier, the dedicated wine expert of the restaurant. If you have never experienced this ritual, or if you don't fully understand the mechanics of what is happening, it is just steeped in awkwardness.
It really is.
I want to vividly describe this physical process for our listeners because the choreography is very specific and very strange if you don't know it.
It is a highly choreographed dance. Please describe the steps.
Okay, imagine this. The sommelier walks up to your table. They present the bottle of wine you ordered to you, literally holding it out and showing you the label as if it is a priceless historical artifact.
Just showing you the paper.
Right. Then they use their special tool to smoothly pull the cork out of the bottle. They take that wet cork and place it directly on the table in front of you.
Yep.
Next, they pour a tiny, minuscule amount of wine, maybe just one sip into your massive glass, and then the choreography just stops.
Total silence.
They step back, they cross their hands behind their back, and they just stand there in silence, staring directly at you.
They are waiting for your judgment.
And it is absolutely terrifying. If you are a beginner or if you just don't drink a lot of expensive wine, you sit there in the silence thinking, did I do something wrong? Are they waiting for a secret password?
Why did they only give me one drop?
Right. Are they just being incredibly cheap with the wine? It is so easy to misinterpret the entire situation.
It is entirely understandable why that silence feels oppressive. To remove the anxiety from this ritual, we have to clarify what question is actually being asked of you in that moment.
Okay, what is the question?
Well, the biggest, most universal misconception about the wine presentation is that the sommelier is asking you to taste the wine to see if you like it.
Wait, let me stop you right there. They aren't asking if I like the taste. Because I always thought that if I taste it and I think, this is a little too fruity for me or a little too bitter, I could just tell them I don't like it and they would bring me a different bottle.
No, absolutely not.
Seriously.
Assuming you ordered that specific bottle of wine from the menu,
Yeah.
you generally cannot send it back simply because it isn't your favorite flavor profile.
Wow, I had no idea.
The ritual is not a subjective preference test. You are not a judge in a wine tasting competition.
Then what is it?
The ritual is an objective quality control check. You are checking for a very specific chemical fault. You are verifying that the wine has not gone bad.
What does that mean, physically? How does a sealed bottle of wine go bad?
The specific industry term is checking to see if the wine is corked.
Corked.
Right. Traditional wine corks are made from natural tree bark, and sometimes that natural bark harbors a very specific, completely harmless but terrible-smelling bacteria.
Gross.
The chemical compound is called TCA. If that bacteria is in the cork, it infects the liquid inside the bottle.
And what does an infected or corked wine actually taste like? Does it taste like vinegar?
Not vinegar, no. A corked wine has a very distinct musty odor. It smells like wet cardboard or a damp, moldy basement, or even a wet dog.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It completely destroys the natural fruit flavors of the wine. So that tiny pour in your glass is not for you to decide if it pairs well with your steak. It is basically a micro-laboratory test for you to verify that the wine is chemically sound and free of TCA.
Oh, that changes everything. So I am basically just performing a quick health inspection on the bottle.
Exactly.
I'm not expected to give a poetic review of the vintage. I am just making sure it doesn't smell like a wet basement.
Exactly. And knowing that relieves all the pressure. You don't need to be a wine expert. You just need to know the basic physical steps of the test.
Okay.
It is a simple 3-step process.
Walk us through the steps. What do I actually do when they pour that single sip and step back?
Step 1. You take the glass by the long stem and give it a gentle, tiny swirl in circles on the table.
The swirl. What is the functional purpose of swirling it?
Swirling agitates the liquid and introduces oxygen. This aerates the wine and forces the aromatic compounds up into the bowl of the glass, making it easier to smell any faults.
Okay, step 1 is swirl.
Step 2. You lean down, lower your nose slightly into the glass, and take a quick, deliberate sniff.
Swirl, then sniff. What am I smelling for exactly?
If it smells like dark fruit or vanilla or oak or anything pleasant, the wine is perfectly fine.
Right.
If it smells like a wet newspaper, it might be corked. But assuming it smells fine, you move to step 3. You take a small sip.
Swirl, sniff, sip.
Right, you let it wash over your tongue, and if it tastes like normal wine, the ritual is complete.
Okay, but this is the part where I always freeze.
The response?
Yes. And here's the most important part of the entire process, the part where beginners usually panic. What do I say to the sommelier who is still staring at me?
Well, first, you do not need to give a speech. You do not need to invent flavor notes about, leather and blackberries.
So what is the line?
You simply look up, make eye contact, give a warm smile, and say, "That is perfect, thank you."
That is perfect, thank you.
Yes, that is the cue. The sommelier will nod, step forward, and pour the rest of the glasses for the table. The tension is broken.
Swirl, sniff, sip. That is a perfect thank you. That completely demystifies the entire intimidating process. You don't have to be a master sommelier. You just have to know your specific role in the play.
Precisely. It is just another set of dance steps.
All right, so the wine is poured correctly. We are halfway through the meal. The food is incredible. But let's introduce a problem.
Okay, what goes wrong?
Let's say you accidentally bump your hand on the table and you drop your fork on the floor. Or maybe your water glass is empty and you are very, very thirsty.
It happens.
You need to interact with the staff again. You need to get your waiter's attention. This brings us to mistake number 2 from our guide.
The blunder of getting attention. This is a very common cultural collision.
The blunder. Because again, if you do not know the subtle rules of this specific environment, you might rely on what you do in casual restaurants or what you see in old television shows.
Right.
You might raise your arm high in the air, maybe snap your fingers, and shout across the room, "Excuse me, waiter." "Oh, waiter, over here."
Which, in the context of a quiet, upscale dining room, is an absolute nightmare.
It is so jarring. I try to visualize this difference for people. Trying to get a waiter's attention in a fancy restaurant is not like hailing a bright yellow taxi cab on a busy, noisy street in New York City.
No, it is not.
You do not need big, sweeping arm gestures. You do not need loud vocal projections. It should be an entirely different physical language. It should be more like subtly bidding on a painting at a very exclusive, quiet art auction.
The art auction is a brilliant analogy. It perfectly captures the required energy.
Right, just very small movements.
We have to understand that upscale American restaurants operate almost entirely on a nonverbal culture.
Nonverbal.
Yes. The atmosphere, the lighting, the acoustic panels, the spacing of the tables is meticulously designed to be calm, intimate, and uninterrupted. When someone shouts across the room, it literally shatters that carefully constructed atmosphere for every other paying customer. It is considered deeply rude and abrasive.
Okay, so if shouting is completely banned and I still don't have a fork to eat my food, how do I get a new one? What is the elegant, nonverbal method?
The elegant method relies almost entirely on the power of eye contact.
Eye contact.
In a fine dining establishment, good servers are freely trained to constantly scan their assigned section of the room. Even when they are standing quietly by the wall, their eyes are moving from table to table looking for cues.
So they're already looking for me.
Therefore, the majority of the work is already being done for you. All you have to do is wait for them to look in your direction and catch their eye.
Make eye contact. And then what? Do I wave?
No waving. Waving is too big. Once you establish solid eye contact, you give a tiny, deliberate nod of your head.
Just a nod.
Alternatively, you can lift your hand just 2 or 3 inches off the surface of the table. It is a micro gesture.
Just a little look, a slight lift of the chin, or a tiny raise of the hand.
Yes, the server will see it instantly. They will usually give a small nod back to you to acknowledge that they have received the message, and they will walk over to your table as soon as their hands are free. It is a completely silent conversation.
That is so cool.
Now, there is one exception.
Okay, what is it?
If the server happens to be standing physically very close to your table already, perhaps they're pouring water for the people sitting right next to you, then you can use your voice.
Because they're right there.
But it must be a very soft conversational tone. A gentle, when there is a break in the action is all that is required.
No snapping, no frantic waving, no shouting, just subtle eye contact and a tiny nod. Practicing that really makes you look so incredibly in control. It makes you look like you own the place, but in a very understated, polite way.
It demonstrates to the staff and honestly to your dining companions that you deeply understand the sophisticated rhythm of the room.
Okay, the crisis of the dropped fork is handled. The meal was delicious. We did not shout at anyone. We politely gave our compliments to the chef for the recommendation.
A perfect evening so far.
The plates are cleared away. But now we have arrived at the final and perhaps most perilous challenge of the evening, the departure.
Leaving the restaurant.
How do we escape gracefully? Because paying the money comes with its own set of confusing linguistic traps.
It absolutely does, starting with the core vocabulary word itself.
Yes. Mistake number 3. Asking for the bill. Let's imagine I finish my last bite of dessert. I look at the waiter and I say, "Give me the bill," or "How much is it?" Again, we run straight back into the bank robber problem.
It sounds incredibly abrupt and aggressive.
It sounds exactly like a stick-up in an old movie. Put the bill in the bag and nobody gets hurt.
It completely ruins the elegant, collaborative vibe we have spent the last 2 hours building.
Exactly. So what is the proper American norm for this moment?
First, we have to address a significant regional vocabulary distinction that is very important for international learners to note.
Okay, let's hear it.
In many English-speaking countries around the world, such as the United Kingdom or Australia, it is perfectly normal to ask for the bill at the end of a meal.
Right, the bill.
The word bill historically refers to a list of items and their costs. However, in the United States, specifically in the context of a restaurant, the preferred and standard word is almost always the check.
The check. So in America, instead of asking for the bill, we must remember to ask for the check. Why the difference?
It likely stems from banking terminology, where a check is a document requesting the transfer of funds. But practically speaking, in the U.S. restaurant industry, check is the universal term.
Okay, good to know.
However, simply knowing the word is not enough. We must pair that specific vocabulary with the polite phrasing strategies we discussed earlier. You cannot simply demand, "Bring the check."
We need to use our polite fiction of equality again.
Exactly. The most ideal, standard, and perfectly polite phrasing is simply, "Could we get the check, please?"
Could we get the check, please?
Yeah.
It is simple, it is clean, and it uses could to make it a polite request rather than a demand.
Yes.
But our source material offered an even smoother, longer phrase. A phrase that the guide claims demonstrates the ultimate level of class in dining sophistication. What was that specific phrase?
It is a wonderful phrase to memorize. The phrase is, whenever you have a moment, we are ready for the check.
Whenever you have a moment, we are ready for the check.
I absolutely love the rhythm of that sentence. Let's analyze the mechanics of it. Why is that specific phrase so powerful?
It goes directly back to that sociology of respect and the polite fiction of equality we talked about.
Right.
By starting the sentence with, whenever you have a moment, you are explicitly and verbally acknowledging that the server is a working professional with a busy schedule.
You are seeing them as a person.
You are saying, I see that you are working hard managing multiple tables. I'm not in a rush to leave. Please prioritize your tasks as you see fit, but know that I am prepared to pay. You are actively showing respect for their labor and their time management.
Exactly. It removes all of the urgent pressure from the financial transaction. It doesn't feel like a demand for immediate service.
It's so relaxed.
It leaves the server with a wonderful, respectful final impression of you. It ensures that you end the night looking like a true, experienced VIP.
Whenever you have a moment, we are ready for the check. I am absolutely putting that phrase in my permanent pocket for my next dinner out. It is just incredibly smooth and empathetic.
Highly recommend it.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive today, I have to share a specific story from the source material that made me laugh out loud, but also horrified me just a little bit.
Oh, I know what you're going to talk about.
It is a cautionary tale. It proves that even if you have memorized all these amazing pocket words, you still have to be careful when navigating the actual food on the menu.
You are referring to the sweetbreads story.
The infamous sweetbreads incident. So the guide talks about a diner who was visiting a very fancy restaurant. They're trying to be very sophisticated and adventurous. They're scanning the menu, and they see a dish listed simply as sweetbreads.
A classic menu trap.
Now, if you are a learner, or just someone using basic English logic, you would naturally break that compound word down. Sweet and breads.
It makes sense.
You would assume that sweetbreads is perhaps a lovely basket of warm, freshly baked bread, maybe slightly sweetened with sugar, maybe served with some honey butter.
Right.
It sounds delightful. It sounds like a pastry.
It sounds exactly like a lovely baked good to have before the meal.
So the diner confidently orders the sweetbreads, and a few minutes later, the waiter walks out and places a plate of sizzling cooked meat in front of them.
Not bread at all.
Because, as it turns out, sweetbreads are absolutely, definitively not bread. They're a very strange, very specific internal part of a cow. I think it's the thymus gland or maybe the pancreas.
Yes, sweetbreads refer to the culinary term for offal, specifically the thymus gland or pancreas of a calf or lamb.
Oh my goodness.
In high-end culinary circles, it is considered a massive delicacy, prized for its rich texture. But it is certainly not a blueberry muffin.
So this poor, unsuspecting person is sitting there in this beautiful restaurant expecting a warm pastry, and they are certainly staring at a plate of cooked cow glands.
It's quite a shock.
It is a hilarious image, but it highlights a very real anxiety. What is the fundamental takeaway from this story for our listeners?
The primary takeaway is about the vulnerability of being a learner. While the structural pocket words we have discussed all have, chef's recommendation, on the side will save you and make you look elegant in 90% of situations, you must never let the desire to look sophisticated override your own curiosity.
Right. You have to ask.
You must always feel empowered to ask a basic question.
Right. Do not let the fear of looking silly or uneducated force you into eating a pancreas.
Exactly. Many diners feel immense cultural pressure to appear as though they know everything on a fine dining menu. They think asking a question reveals them as an amateur.
I used to feel that way.
But this is completely false. If you see a word you do not recognize, whether it is an English word like sweetbreads or a complex French cooking technique, you should never be afraid to point directly at it and ask the waiter for help.
What is a polite way to ask without sounding totally clueless?
You simply say, could you tell me a little bit more about this dish? Or what exactly is this specific ingredient?
Could you tell me a little bit more about this dish?
Yes. Asking for clarification is not a sign of ignorance. It is a sign of an engaged, interested diner. The servers spend hours in meetings before the shift learning about the food.
So they want to talk about it.
They are trained to explain the menu. It is literally their job to guide you. It is always, always better to ask a simple, humble question than to end up with completely unexpected cow parts on your plate simply because your pride prevented you from speaking up.
That is fantastic, deeply practical advice. Empower yourself to ask questions. Curiosity is always elegant.
It really is.
Okay, let's take a step back and pull all of this information together. Let's recap the incredible journey we just took through the world of fine dining. We started on the sidewalk, feeling anxious. We walked through those heavy glass doors. We survived the initial test at the podium by remaining calm and simply saying, "Sure, thank you," when the host strategically asked us to wait at the bar.
We smoothly defeated the high-pressure water trap by looking the waiter in the eye and confidently asking for regular tap water with ice, please.
We navigated the confusing false friends on the menu, actively remembering the historical quirk that in America, the entree is not the entrance, but the massive main event.
We ordered our food like royalty, completely ditching the aggressive toddler-like demand of "I want" and replacing it with the elegant, socially collaborative phrasing of "I'll have," and to start us off with,
We successfully modified our orders without insulting the kitchen by asking, "Is it possible?" and remembering to get our heavy sauces gracefully placed on the side.
we handled the intimidating, silent ritual of the sommelier by remembering it is a chemistry test, not a taste test. We performed the physical steps, swirl, sniff, sip, and confidently deliver the closing line. That is perfect, thank you.
We learned how to get a new fork without shouting across the room, using the subtle eye contact and tiny nod of an exclusive art auction. And finally, we gracefully concluded the evening and paid the check by respectfully telling our busy server, "Whenever you have a moment, we are ready for the check."
By mastering these specific phrases and understanding the mechanisms behind them, you are now completely equipped to conquer any fine dining establishment in the country.
You really are.
You do not have to have a perfect, massive vocabulary. You do not have to be an expert in French cuisine. You just need to know the basic steps of the dance. Because ultimately, the entire restaurant staff, the host, the waiter, the sommelier, the chef, they are all there to collaborate with you on a great experience. They are not there to test you or judge you.
That is the core, comforting truth of the whole experience. And as we finish up today, that truth leads me to ask you for one final thought. I always love the provocative thoughts you bring to the end of our discussions.
Oh, thank you.
Based on all these rules and phrases we just learned, what is the deeper takeaway we should be thinking about?
Consider this deeper sociological question, something to ponder long after this deep dive is over. Why does the specific, nuanced language we use in restaurants carry so much heavy cultural weight?
It's a great question.
We just spent an hour dissecting the microscopic difference between saying "I want" and saying "I'll have." On a purely grammatical level, the difference is tiny. But socially, the difference is massive.
It's huge.
Why does that matter so much? I would argue that mastering this polite, slightly deferred phrasing, saying things like, "whenever you have a moment," reveals much broader, deeper cultural values.
Cultural values about what, specifically?
About our modern concepts of equality, about the reality of social class, and most importantly, about the inherent respect we are culturally expected to afford to service workers and manual labor in modern society.
Yeah.
The language we use in these highly stylized dining spaces is actually a microcosm of how we view power, money, and human dignity.
That is a profound way to look at it.
When you take the time to learn to speak the specific language of polite collaboration, you aren't just learning how to order a plate of food, you are learning how to successfully navigate the very fabric of social respect in American culture.
Wow.
You are learning how to wield economic power without stripping dignity from the person serving you.
You aren't just ordering dinner. You are navigating the complex landscape of social respect and human dignity. That is an incredibly powerful idea, and it is the absolute perfect thought to leave you, our listener, with today. I want to highly encourage you to take these tools, take these pocket words, and bring them out into the real world.
Go try it out.
Go find a nice restaurant, make a reservation, get dressed up in your best clothes, practice sitting up straight and saying, "I'll have." Because the single most important thing for you to remember is this. No matter where you are from, no matter what your native language is, and no matter how many mistakes you might make along the way, you inherently belong in any room you choose to walk into, no matter how heavy or expensive those glass doors are. Push them open with absolute confidence. You are going to do great.